This is the nation's #1 talk news and sports radio station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. 5 minutes gone past the 5 o'clock hour. Welcome to the Big Hard Facts. Today, the 11th day of February 2025. And on Hard Facts today, I did promise you earlier that we're going to be talking about the proliferation of arms, small arms, ammunition, and the fight against terrorism and what's at the core of it, of course. Over the years, I have continuously reported on guns being intercepted, maybe at the borders, some within the city, some even, intercepted somewhere in South Africa coming from Turkey. But the question is, where are these guns coming from? Who's bringing these guns into the country? What are their reasons for bringing these guns? And how are we ever going to be able to deal with insecurity if these guns continue to find their way into the country? Well, to have this conversation with me, I'm being joined by an expert, obviously, who would be able to point us in the direction which we would like to go, or obviously maybe give us a fair knowledge or understanding of how we can deal with this issue as it is right now in the country. He is a security intelligence professional, and he's joining us live via Zoom. Dr. Yahuza Getso is my guest today. Doctor, it's so good to have you join us. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, viewers. Thank you for having me.
Great. Dr. Yahuza, it's very interesting how we continuously see guns or catch of ammunition, and sometimes these assault rifles can pay somebody's salary, but we see them in the hands of people who we know cannot afford them. Just a few weeks ago in Zamfara State, a gun runner was arrested, and the guns that I saw, I must tell you, scared me. And let's also remember that on the one hand, the government and the Nigerian army are fighting, insecurity and terrorism, and some of the arms and ammunition that these terrorists are carrying, or these so-called bandits, are a lot more sophisticated than what our soldiers are carrying. And the big question is, how do these guns get in? Who is paying for these guns to come into the country? Maybe we start from there.
Well, I think there are three things to look into in this regard. One of which, the issue of our border, poor border inability to manage our border. Inability to manage our border, that is one. Mm-hmm. And secondly, it was justified by the National Security Advisor at one time that most of the arms that has been recovered from these criminals were government-owned arms that were either stolen from the armories, that is one, or else there were connivance between some of the unscrupulous element among the security personnel who have been borrowing or renting their arms to the criminals to conduct their criminality. And three, the external forces. Why I call it external forces is because some of the foreign machineries who are having either directly or indirectly hands in the proliferation of arms in Nigeria, and also supporting the promotion of this crisis and criminalities in Nigeria, simply because of so many reasons, one of which political reasons, the other one is economic reason, the other one is probably because they will not want Nigeria to continue to grow at peace. And at the same time, if there is peace, it means that the companies producing manufacturing the arms and ammunition will not find it will not find a way of getting the arms or selling their arms that they have manufactured, and that will have implication on their economy, and that will have implication in their revenue, and that will have implication in the sales of the arms itself.
Let's talk about, I mean, because every time I want to have this conversation, I can't get it out of my mind, the fact that we have porous borders. And the porousness of our borders, whether we like it or not, plays a significant role in how we're able to...
So this was, at the same time, internally, because...
Dr. Yahuza, I think that we're losing your connection, but can you hear me? I think that we've lost that connection with you, but if you can hear me, I'm going to ask the question again. We've lost that connection. He seems to be on the move there. Dr. Getso Yahuza is a security intelligence expert, and he's joining us from the FCT. I guess the connection is a little bit poor. He's going to join us again. I think he has joined us again. Hopefully he can get to hear us. Dr. Getso, can you hear me? Dr. Getso, can you hear me? Are you there? Oh, unfortunately, his connection is still very bad. But if you're just joining us, we're talking on the Big Hard Facts today about the proliferation of arms, small ammunitions, and the fight against terrorism. How do we fight terrorism if every single day guns are getting into this country, some of them unabated? And there are those who make the case that, the ones that you see that makes it to the news is just a tiny percentage as compared to the ones that find their way into the hands of the unscrupulous elements who are terrorizing the country day and night. And I'm talking about whether it be the kidnapped lawmaker that was killed in Anambra, or the fact that a new set of people have been kidnapped today or yesterday in Niger, whether it be the ones in Katsina, whether it be the the former DG of the NYSC. Dr. Getso, I think we were able to get you back. We lost you for a second.
Yes.
So I was asking a question about the porousness of our borders. How do we fight this, issue of guns finding their way into our country, whether it has the hand of Esau, the guys who are within or the guys that are without? How do we do that if we don't fix the porousness of our borders? And this is something that we're hoping that the federal government, the legislature, would address. But unfortunately, it's only lip service that's being paid to it. So how do we even begin to fight terrorism if our borders are just an open gateway?
There are 11 outline activities that we're supposed to carry out if we are really serious, sincere, and we want to be honest, and we want to get results. 1, we must be ready to fight corruption. 2, we must conduct a realistic course analysis. 3, we must examine the intelligence, mode of operandi in terms of intelligence generation, in terms of intelligence utilization, in terms of proactive measures of what we have been doing with intelligence that we have been gathering. Number 4, we must be ready to introduce in practice the strategy of
Dr. Getso, unfortunately, because you're on the move, we're getting a disconnection from you at points because you're in transit. So we're getting disconnected every now and again. But we missed the last point that you were trying to make.
Okay, I was trying to outline 11 steps that we really want to fight proliferation.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to see if we can try calling you via telephone, Dr. Getso, because we cannot hear you and the connection is going on and off. And we quite understand that it's because you're, in transit. But let's try and see if we can call you via telephone. Maybe that would be easier for us, because right now, or better still, what you can do for us is switch to your audio and just turn off your camera for now. Let's see if that works. Okay. All right. All right, we're live, facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. We are also live on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. If you're listening to us from outside of the country, you want to join the conversation, we're on Skype at Nigeria Info FM. You could join the conversation. We're still speaking with Dr. Yahuza Getso, and he is a security intelligence expert talking to us about the proliferation of arms. And of course, the fight against terrorism in Nigeria. There's so many cases. While we try to get the good doctor to join us again, maybe by now the connection would be stable. We would like for you to join the conversation, post your comments, your thoughts. Doctor, are you a bit more stable now? It looks like you're not moving anymore. Is this better?
Yes, I'm going to even sit down with the tripod and organize so it will be better.
Okay, great.
Just give me 2 minutes.
All right, no problem. All right, thank you very much. We'll do just that. All right, Lagos, while we wait for the doctor to sort himself out, I want to take your mind back to the video that of the arms and ammunition that was intercepted in Zamfara State most recently. I think that was just last week, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look at that. And then I'd like to remind you of that young lady that was caught somewhere in the north with bullets. It looked like she was going to the market on an ordinary day, you know, carrying a bag. You would probably never notice that, you know, she was carrying anything. To the untrained eye, it looked like she was going to the market and then, you know, boarded a bus and was going home. Unfortunately, in her case, what was in her bag were bullets. And you could hear from the military officials, you know, what they were saying to her in their language, because she seemed very nonchalant about it. You know, she seemed unbothered, you know, about whatever it was that they were talking about. You know, she just seemed like, I could not be bothered. What are these people screaming about? But she was carrying bullets. But while I'm looking for that video, let me play you a clip from last week in Zamfara State. The department and this was the governor, Dauda Lawal, inspecting the guns and bullets that was intercepted in collaboration with the DSS and the army. When I saw some of these guns, I was really worried. They were assault rifles, many of them, and these guns were being smuggled into the country. Who is paying for these guns? Why are they bringing these guns? I mean, we're not in Sudan. We're not fighting a war. We're not in DRC where the M23 guys I mean, it's not a war zone. Who is bringing these guns into the country? This is the question that we're asking. And how are we going to deal with the issue of terrorism if we don't deal with our borders? If we don't deal with, you know, the porousness of our borders? Where is the National Assembly on this? Well, my guest is joining us via Zoom in a bit. He's going to continue the conversation with us. But we're live on facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. We're also live on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. Let me just give you a big background on my guest. And then, of course, he's going to join us again. He's trying to set up his tripod so that he can have a better conversation with us. For those of you who do not know, Dr. Yahuza Getso is an intellectual with a golden voice, an astute orator, well-articulated ideas, and a renowned public policy expert. He's also about community-driven development. He's a strategist with an I-can-do attitude, with social behavioral communication professional. He's also a public speaker with distinguished community mobilization and a change agent. It'll also interest you to know that he's a peace advocate, like me, and an international peace advocate. She's got experience ranging from Islamic theology to Arabic language, public policy, security and intelligence, international affairs, and diplomacy. Okay, Dr. Getso, thank you so much for joining us again. We appreciate it. I know that you've taken out time from your busy schedule to be part of this conversation. Thank you for your time. Now, you were yes, you were giving us an 11 step.
Is it okay for you?
Yeah, this is better. Yes, this is way better.
Okay.
So you were trying to give us an 11 step to dealing with the issue of insecurity. So let's take it from there.
Okay. Okay. I'm very much comfortable now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Good.
I have 4 minutes before I go on a quick break, so go ahead.
Okay, fine. As I was outlining 11 things. 1, fighting corruption. 2, conducting a root cause analysis. 3, identifying the unscrupulous element among the security personnel. And 4, managing the exigencies of contingency activities in relation to the issues of competitiveness among the security heads. And 5, we also need to review the development objective in relation to our relationship with the neighborhood, that is the bilateral and multilateral relations, to ensure that we review the development objective and the treaties we have signed. And 6, we must be ready to take measures of punishment, reward and punishment on those who are found wanting, whether they are traditional religious, administrators, politicians, those who have been found wanting. And number 7, we must also reach out to those that have surrendered their arms to kind of try as much as possible to understand what were the sources of they have gotten the arms before they were able to kind of hand over their.
Are you there, Dr. Getso? Yeah, the connection has done it again, and we've lost Dr. Getso's connection. Dr. Getso, we lost you for a second there.
Oh, is your network, not my network? I don't know.
Okay, great. I want to push you. Number? Yeah, I want to push back on something you just said. And this is just a personal, opinion. I've always contended with the idea of repentant terrorist or surrendered terrorists and us trying to rehabilitate them. I mean, how do you rehabilitate a terrorist in 1 year and say, we can go back into society, as opposed to letting them sit in jail and think about what they have done and the killings that have happened in society? Again, these are questions that I genuinely ask. What do you think as an intelligence expert?
Well, I have been asking questions around that. The issue is, if really the 8,000 of Boko Haram or the 20,000 or whatever the number, we are saying that they have lost their arms, they have surrendered. The questions behind it is, how many of them, how many arms have they surrendered? To what extent have they exposed the access, the sources of getting those arms? And how have governments been utilizing those, and the security heads been utilizing those informations to fast track and break the supply chain? And that was number 8 I was going. We must find a way of breaking the supply chain mechanism of how these arms and ammunitions are being mobilized. So you cannot say within 1 year, you can be able to rehabilitate somebody and take him back to the society. And how government have not been really working with their promises. That probably, if we really have been doing what we're supposed to do, if we really have those 8,000, 9,500, whatever number that have been surrendering to the security personnel, to the security heads, from what we have had many times, I think we could have bring an end to this menace. It wouldn't have still been existing to this present, because it would have been a storytelling. And number 9, we must reach out to those criminals that I and many have been saying that if government doesn't know where they are and who they are, we know where they are and we know who they are.
Please hold that thought. Please hold that thought, Dr. Yahuza. We have to go on a quick break, please. Quick break. We have to go on a quick break.
That's my opinion.
Okay, when we come back, we'll talk up more about it. I also want to push you on that. Stay with us. It's still the Big Hard Fact on 99.3 Nigeria Info. We'll be back after this break.
More conversation, more talk, more right after this.
There are so many distractions taking away the attention of my family, from phone screens to work screens and others. But when my family hears this, when I cook with Devon Kings, we all come together to bond, taking away all distractions. Hey, no phones at my table, please. Oh yeah, let's eat. Cook up unbreakable buns with Devon King's range of cooking oil, margarine, spread, and seasoning. Great for bonding moments. Devon King's, taste that binds. Available across stores nationwide.
Hey, here's a question for you. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Is it the sunrise? The sound of your alarm? No, it's that dream, that drive, that unstoppable force inside you. And you know what fuels that drive? It's starting your day strong with the rich, creamy taste of Nescafe Original 3-in-1, carefully crafted from selected coffee beans. So, whatever your hustle, go from maybe or I can't to I can and I will. Nescafe Original 3-in-1. Start strong, finish strong.
For a decade, the Access Bank Lagos City Marathon has been more than just a race. It's been a collection of stories of ordinary people achieving the extraordinary. Every stride taken has created unforgettable memories of triumph, purpose, and shared experiences. With each step, runners have sparked passion that ignites, moments that last a lifetime, strides that leave a legacy. Join us as we celebrate a decade of running, purpose, and progress at the 10th anniversary of the Access Bank Lagos City Marathon. Register today at accessbankplc.com/marathon and be a part of the journey where every step becomes a story to remember.
The Access Bank Lagos City Marathon, celebrating 10 years of running. See you at the starting line.
In the kitchen game, there are players and then Agba Ballers, MVP, Player of the Year, 10-0, no rival. Become an Agba Baller with the new improved Maggi chicken flavor, the game changer, made with a flavorful formation of onions, celery, turmeric to bring out your top game in the kitchen. Elevate the taste of your everyday dishes with delicious rich chicken flavor. Oh yeah, let's go.
New Maggi chicken flavor, the game changer.
My children are athletes. From the moment they wake up, they keep playing and learning. So, when I pack the new Milo NS snacks into their lunchbox, I'm giving them a delicious snack with the goodness of malt, milk, cocoa, and crunchy Niger-grown maize containing calcium, iron, and fiber.
Milo and Snacks, snack of future champions to help your kids refuel and keep winning all day. Milo, energy to go further.
Milo!
Love comes alive when you get that correct feeling that something major is coming your way. Celebrate your love this Valentine's season with a gift of land from any Adron Homes estate and enjoy 30 to 40% discount, a payment spread up to 48 months with amazing gift items like luxury hamper, washing machine, double-door fridge, water dispenser, and many more when you make an initial deposit. For more inquiries, call us 0809-829-9600 or 0701-711-6478. Adron Love a Life product, your surest way to show love. Terms and conditions apply.
Adron Homes.
Building cities, communities, and homes.
As we celebrate 10 years of 7-Up and Lagos City Marathon being in the game, we have to give it to Lagosians. We know all about running. To enter Danfo,
we run!
Small rain,
we run!
Sun,
we run!
Unnecessary billing,
we run!
This is Lagos, and we love running. So, whatever your reason for running this year, own your lane with 7-Up at the Access Bank Lagos City Marathon on the 15th of February. 7-Up, the diff is clear.
Meals have a way of taking us on a journey. And when you add plenty of vegetables like efo, ugu, and season with the rich taste of North seasoning cubes, even better.
So, go ahead and elevate your meals with more vegetables and the rich taste of Knorr cubes. Today, eat for good.
In a world where words hold power, where only the sharpest minds survive, one stage will decide it all. On February 17th, 2025, the battle of intellect begins. The I Beg to Differ Secondary School Debate Tournament returns, where the best young debaters go head-to-head, armed with nothing but facts, logic, and the will to win. Who will stand their ground? Who will outthink, out-argue, and outshine the competition? IBTD Debates Competition Studio reopens February 17th at 4 p.m. Tune in, witness the debates, watch history unfold. I Beg to Differ is proudly supported by Obiwizi. Prize money sponsor, Tollywood College, Lagos. I Beg to Differ, the Tournament of Champions.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
Your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Millions of listeners trust us on Hard Fact. Whether it's politics, social issues, controversies, and trending stories. You know we're credible and objective.
It's Hard Facts with Maryann Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
It's still the big hard fact on 99.3 Nigeria Info. This is the nation's number one talk news and sports radio station. We're broadcasting live from our audiovisual studios right here in Itamian Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. I am Maryann Okon. Joining me live via Zoom is a security intelligence expert, Dr. Yahuza Getso, and we're talking about, of course, the proliferation of arms. We're talking about it side by side, the fight against terrorism, and of course, border controls. And he's been giving us an 11-step plan of sorts, if we're serious about it, on how we can get rid of this situation. Doctor, thank you so much for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were talking about the fact that there are people that the government have said, they don't know where they are. They don't know them. But you say you know these people and you know where they are. So how come you, as an intelligence expert, has an idea of who these people are and where they may be gathered, but the government seems not to know?
Well, I think, Miriam, the answer is very simple for several reasons. One, I spent most of my lifetime in the last 17 days within the forest as a hunter, as a researcher, as an examiner, as a community-driven development, and as a community-driven development expert, and as well as community-based reach-out research. I have conducted so many research, and I have presented so many papers, and I have reached out to all the security heads and all the security agencies from bottom to top, and from top to the bottom. And I have provided them with legal and relevant information to how to reach out to these guys. It's not something that I have been doing it in a hidden. I have been discussing this through local and international media now and before. So in the last 17 to 20 years, I've been discussing this. That is one. Secondly, none of these guys have been operating under the ground, and none of them have been operating on the sky. They are all operating within our own communities. I am from Northern region. I have worked in all the local government, all the political world, and all the polling units of the northwestern part and of the 19 northern states. And I have known all the nooks and crannies. We don't have anything thick forest. What we have is hard to reach and difficult terrain for certain reasons which we can justify. And then we don't have any space between one polling unit and the other. All the polling units have the border with one another. All the political works have the border with one another. all the local government have the border with one another, and all the states have the border, shared border with one another. So there is nothing like a space between one border and the other. That is two. And three, many governors during the 8 years of Buhari administration, and even during the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and even during the time of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they have been saying that we are conducting dialogue with these criminals. So the question is, if you don't know who they are and you don't know where they are, how are you reaching out? How are you conducting the dialogue? Now, the leaders in Nigeria should be serious and honest. So with these justifications, and many traditional leaders, many political leaders, many religious leaders, both Muslim and the Christian clerics, many philanthropists have been found wanting, directly or indirectly, participating and partaking in it. So if these guys are, and I have said, they are not up to 3 million, all of them that have been terrorizing the north central and northwestern part of the country. And inclusive of the Boko Haram, even the Boko Haram members are not up to 3 million. So how can just 6 million foot all together at maximum, let's say they are up to 10 million? And how many security forces do we have? And how much money have we been invested over time in respect to fighting this insurgency? And for how long will it take us for us to continue? Every now and then we are budgeting and we are spending the money, and yet we are not getting result. And we are not holding. And number 9, we must be ready to find a way of holding somebody accountable. Because
who are we going to hold accountable? Because when we catch these people, after a few months, we let them go.
I will answer this question.
Who?
I will answer this question. It is very simple. Well, we should be ready to hold accountable our security agencies, the local government chairman, the traditional leaders, because no divisional officer will tell me that he don't know who are terrorizing the divisional territory integrity that he's supposed to cover. If ordinarily anybody jump into police station and say a divisional police office that somebody cheating, or I have problem with Mr. AB, the DPO, the divisional police officer, will send his boys to go and bring out that person, no matter how difficult and hard to reach the community may be. So how can you tell me? And these guys, they are using motorbikes over the time. Are this motorbike being utilized with air, without fuel? And if at all they are using the fuel, for how long? We have been saying we have had so many fuel queues in northern Nigeria and all the 19 northern states. We have suffered. We have slept many times at the fueling station waiting for next day. Probably sometimes some people will spend more than 3 days at the fueling station before they get it. And yet, even during those periods of hardship and difficulty of getting the fuel, at the cities inclusive of Abuja, these guys are still operating and they're still using their motorbike. Does that mean the motorbikes they are using are not serviceable? If they are serviceable, who have been servicing those machines for them? The cable, the flock, and other gadgets and other related things that are needed to be replaced on those bikes? Or are you telling me that it is the urine of the cows, if you say they are Fulanis? Which I quite disagree for anybody to say they are Fulanis that are terrorizing. It's a combination of Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba, Igbo, Ifipio, Nufe, whatever tribe that you have that are residing within the northwestern part of the northern part of the country where all these atrocities are being committed, they are all party to it. Yes, of course, we can say that those who have been conducting kidnapping, those who have been carrying arms, most of them, more than 99.9%, they are Fulanis. But how do they get those arms? And how do they get those ammunitions?
That's the billion-dollar question. How do they get it? Who's paying for these guns? Because when I see these guns, like I said, one of it can pay somebody's salary.
So those for us to hold accountable are those our security heads. We have never had any DPO dismissed or demoted or sanctioned. So we must be ready to sanction the commissioners of police. The Inspector General of Police must be sanctioned. The DIGs must be sanctioned. The AIGs must be sanctioned, and the Brigade of Guard, the commanding officers of the military and the directors of the DSS, the commanders of the civil defense, immigration, and all the 29 security formations that we have in the country. That is the formal. We have 29 formal formations, and we have many other non-formal formations. So we should be holding them accountable and responsible about the proliferation of arms and how are these arms getting to these guys. And once we start sanctioning and demoting, dismissing, disgracing, and embarrassing, and taking necessary measure of accountability mechanism for those that we have given responsibility, then we can be able to find a root cause and understand how are really these guys getting these arms. I'm coming, please.
Okay.
And at the same time, how are they, those who have been surrendering their arms, we have never been punishing them in public. And we have never been providing the general public with a feedback of what really happens to them. In some instances, somebody will be caught at Maiduguri, and after a year, the same person will be caught at Sokoto. And after another year, the same person will be caught in Niger. The same person will also be caught in 3 months in Kaduna, carrying arms or moving arms to the forest or to the hard-to-reach and difficult terrain or locations of where these guys are. And I said, if anybody says that we don't know who are really committing these atrocities, Dr. Yahuza Getso said time was outnumbered. Through local, national, international, social media outlets, through my Twitter, through LinkedIn, through my Instagram, through my YouTube, through my Facebook, and through my TikTok, all the outlets, both local, using local and international media, I said, I know all the locations where these criminals are. And they are within us. And I'm happy. Even the governor of Zamfara testified to this. Even the governor of Katsina testified to this, that we know them, we know their parents, we know their parents. So, and even if government says that we don't know them, then how have you been reaching out to them for dialogue? And number 10 of the 11 is those who are among the security heads. There are allegations in relation to mining activities, in relation to some of the security personnel, some of the political partisan politicians, as well as other appointees. Who have we ever been sanctioned? And what have ever been the feedback? And these mine activities, we said that it has been banned since Obasanjo administration, good luck Umaru Musarado administration, good luck Ebele Jonathan administration, Buhari administration, and even the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu still maintain the same status quo. But nobody will look at my eye and say that illegal arms, illegal mining, and even the legal ones has been banned, because people are still mining. So those mining sites, we have been poorly managing them, and then they have been attributed and contributed to the relational issue of combating or kind of a trade by barter between those who are bringing arms to most part of these locations. They are collecting those mineable items, the gold and other things, and also in exchange of arms and ammunition. And what have we been doing? Those women that we have found many times, and many other young boys who have been providing logistics and other things to these guys, and who have been treating their health. It means that some of our health officers, health extension workers and others are also involved in what has been happening. So how have we been tracking? And number 11, managing ungoverned spaces. There are many routes, many ungoverned spaces up till tomorrow, up till now that I'm talking to you. And yet they are in Nigeria, and they are under control of these kingpins and their leadership. And they are under control of the children between the age of 9 to the age of 17 to 25.
Most of them are no way.
So, and still you still have the authority. So it means there is question to the level of authority that we have. There are questions on those ungoverned spaces. Why are they ungoverned? And if these activities of this chaotic, coward terrorist is happening in less than 9 states, and our security agencies put together, all of them, cannot handle it for more than 17 years. What if it escalates to more than 36 states? It means that I and you. And finally, this thing started from the remotest part of the villages in northern Nigeria, to the villages of northern Nigeria, to the towns of northern Nigeria, to the city, urban, semi-urban communities, to urban communities, and now even if Federal Capital Territory, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and many other major cities are not safe as far as this issue of banditry and other armed proliferation and other things that has been happening.
I have so many questions, Doctor, but I have just 10 minutes, and my callers are itching to also ask you questions. So I'm going to try to squeeze my callers in to ask questions, and hopefully you can answer them. I need to bring you back to continue this conversation, because I don't think that we've even scratched the surface of this conversation. We have to come back and talk about, dealing with it. And because, I have questions like, if we've had so many of these things, you are, as an ordinary intelligence, I don't want to think that you're ordinary, you're an intelligence expert, you have all of this information. I don't want to play down on your intelligence, but you have all of this information. Our government have all of this information. How come it is taking forever for us to deal with it, as opposed to the fact that we're throwing money at it? Like you said, we just keep throwing money at it, but we're not dealing with it. I will bring you back. But in the meantime, let me open up the phone lines. I want people to join the conversation. We're live on Facebook, Nigeria Info FM. We're live on YouTube. Dr. Yahuza Getso is joining us via Zoom, and he's been talking to us, giving us some very intelligent information. And doctor, before my callers call in, there are questions always about that list that the UAE gave us. There are questions about, the very damning revelation that Senator Adams Oshomole made about former generals having a hand in all of this. Do you ever think that we'll be able to deal with this issue if our own generals, who at some point swore to protect and serve and ensure that our borders are protected, seemingly have a hand in this whole long list of terrorism? Do you think we're ever going to be able to deal with this situation head on?
Well, I think it wasn't the Oshimole that started passing this allegation. The local community and the traditional institutions, as well as the religious institutions, and those communities where mining activities have been happening, there were a number of video clips in relation to these allegations, not only to rising finger to the generals. We must commend the security agencies, especially those generals, for what they have been doing. What they have been doing is never enough, because they have not been hitting the nail on the head. They have been beaten around, cycling around the nail, while they are saying that we are holding the wood. If you really want to finish this subject matter, everybody in the security cycle, they know 35% of the total number of amount spent of Buhari administration 8 years of only 1 year, 35% of the budgeted amount of only 1 year is adequate, more than adequate, to be utilized in addressing and bringing an end of this menace that we have been battling with it. Now that we have even budgeted $1 trillion of money, I don't really know what the money is going to be for. However, we are going to monitor the budget release and other things. And I know by end of the year, probably we are still going to come back and be telling ourselves the same story. Because the allegations made by Oshomole, this has been also made by many other community heads. And also many of those philanthropists, as I mentioned, and many of the political office holders, the local government chairman, local government sole administrators, the divisional police officers, and other security heads at the local governments, as well as the states, have been actively, either directly or indirectly, involved. Because if at all they have not been involved, why have we never ever hold anybody accountable on the responsibility given to him?
Let's take some calls. Let's try and squeeze in some calls quickly before I let you go, Doctor. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Good evening, Maryann.
Good evening.
Quickly, this is Pastor Ladipo calling from Sarigomo.
30 seconds for everybody, because we don't have time.
Now, I think the way they solve the problem in this other part, like the rivers and all of that, that will be able to produce enough oil. Why not raise another Titan security agency so that these things will stop? Because the way it is now, it looks as if there is a total collaboration against the people just because of that resources. That is my question. The way it was taken care of, that Buhari will give security job to ex-militants. Let's see what can happen in that other region too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just take another quick call. Hello.
Evening, Maryann.
Yes.
You have Emmanuel on the line.
30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah. Does your guest think that there is a political will, to end this insecurity? Because personally, I think politicians engage this militia or armed group, to bring them into power, either rightly or wrongly. And the politicians need them, because we don't have a clean political system. And again, the politicians use docility, that is uneducated and unenlightened.
Your time is up.
If there is a political will, I think this thing will be resolved. But is there a political will based on the kind of system we run, electoral system we run?
All right, thank you very much for calling. Doctor, we'll start with the very first question. The guy saying, can we do what we did with the militants in the Niger Delta in the north? I mean, you and I have already said no, because that's not an option. But the next guy is saying, is there a political will, which is the question I'm asking. Is there a political will to deal with this issue? Because if there is, we probably will not be having this conversation, right?
Well, the political will you will say that we have is budgetary activity that we have been repeating over time and spending money. But yet, of course, we cannot say there is no result, but the result is not enough because we are not hitting the nail on the head. So I think we can go for other questions.
All right, perfect. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Yeah, surely, good evening.
Yes,
Doc,
30
thank
seconds.
you very much. You played your own role. What I want the Senate and the House of Rep to do, invite Kashim Shettima. He said he's going to be in charge of security. Let him come and explain to them what he's doing about insecurity. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you very much. Let's take another call. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
And good evening to your guests. You have spoken very well, excellently well. I think I want to ask him a question. All these spaces that is known, are they under any senatorial district? Do they have senators? Do they have House of Rep? What are their takes on all these things? Enjoy it.
Thank you very much. You want to answer that, Doctor? Quickly. I mean, it's an obvious question.
Just
But...
read the question.
So he's saying that all of these areas that you've visited, especially the ungoverned spaces, do they have members representing them on the floor of the National Assembly, whether it's the red chamber or the green chamber? Do they have leadership of any sort? How come, why are those people not talking about, the ungoverned spaces?
Well, simply because probably they are party to what has been happening. That is just a simple question. Because if they are not party to what has been happening, have you ever had any member House of Representatives or any House of Assembly or any of the red carpet, those senators talking about it? And if they have been talking about it, what have they done? Since the 9th Assembly and the 10th Assembly, tell me one person that has been shouting on this issue of security. And many of them are still visiting their communities, and their community members, those who elected them, are still being hurt. Because none of these senators, none of this state assembly, none of these members of the House of Representatives, children have been hurt. None of their parents have been hurt. None of them that have been directly affected. So if at all they are being directly affected, they could have been talking about it. Why is it only me and you and the other common people at the lower level that are being affected that are talking about it? So what have they been doing? What legislation have they ever made? And they have been passing the budgetary process and also conducting the oversight functions, activities, and the rest of it. And yet, people are still being killed like ants. People are still being kidnapped. People are still being assassinated. Many people have been displaced, and many schools have been shut off for more than years. And all these things that I have been talking to you now, I have been discussing it in the last 17, 20 years. And I'm not a hidden person. I'm a known person. Just go to Google and write who is Dr. Yahuza Getso. You will find all these information that I have been discussing now, that I have been discussing them on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Check all my social media outlets. I have been providing this information through local, national, international, and social media. So I'm not saying it in a hidden, and I'm not saying it for the first time through the Nigeria Info FM. I have been talking about it 17 years back through local, national, and international. Ask the people at the DW, ask the people at the Voice of America, the BBC, Al Jazeera, and all the rest of them. I have been, even on the CNN, I have been talking about it.
Doctor, I need to beg you. I need to beg you live on radio because I have just 20 seconds. We have to go. I need to bring you back here so that we can have this conversation on a more robust level. Hopefully then we would have more time to have this conversation. But I want to thank you because our time is fast spent. Dr. Yahuza, thank you so much for coming on Hard Facts, and I will definitely bring you back in a few weeks. We have to continue this conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great pleasure. Good evening, Lagosian, and good evening, Nigerians.
Thank you so much. Dr. Yahuza Getso is a security intelligence expert. We have to go now, Lagos. Thank you all for being part of the conversation.
More news and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment.
There are so many distractions taking away the attention of my family, from phone screens to work screens and
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at 9